Hi my friends, how are you? So I've realized it might be good if I'm recording in the daytime when I have that harsh daylight that keeps coming through bits and pieces to maybe do a warmer light in the daytime and a colder light at night, so that way I'm still properly lit. I'm still experimenting with things. I'm figuring things out. If any of you are curious about what I'm using, is just for camera is just like a Logi webcam that just has autofocus. That's kind of it. The microphone is one that I bought a while back that I've saved up for. It is a microphone. I just realized my microphone's kind of slid a little bit out of where it needs to be, which is kind of concerning. I don't want it to hang on its wire. The point is, it's actually a microphone for music recording and stuff like that. I got it actually at the local band and music store. A handful of years ago, and I never really used it because I wanted to record music, and that just didn't happen because of fear and laziness. My goal is to some days actually start using it for its purpose. But that one was a couple of $100 at the most. I think it was like 100 something actually. And because it doesn't have a mixing board or anything like that, and so it does have its own little stand, and then I'm hanging it off of a microphone stand my dad gave me. I don't think I have the microphone for it, or there was none, so it's zip tied and kind of held loosely on there. And so that's what I'm using for that. And then the lighting I have, the two lights I have, my original lights are LED lamps that kind of bend and move that I got at Home Depot or Lowe's. I think I got Lowe's. And when I first changed my lights. And then the vanity lighting that I bought when I came back to my hometown. I got at Best Buy. And I got one that, not really expensive, it wasn't at all, probably $50 at the most, maybe less than that. But it changes colors and there's settings, and there's a remote that's somewhere that I guess you can connect with a camera to have it record and change the lighting in the IO and stuff like that. But I don't really need that for the webcam. And it has its own little attachments too. The only complaint I have is that you can't tighten it to the point, at least I don't think you can, where the legs stay a certain length. I have to have them in a certain height, and if they shift, they kind of go whoom. So that's my biggest complaint for it. I don't know if it's a design flaw or an issue with this one, but I make do with what I have. So these are things that I've bought, with the most expensive thing really being the microphone. And the camera I'm using, I had bought a webcam a while back, and then my sister used it and claimed she didn't. And so my brother brought me this one for Christmas. So maybe someday I will move up into a real legitimate digital camera. That'd be really cool. My mom has one, but I don't know if it's very good. I'm still trying to figure that camera out. I haven't had time to. And I wouldn't know how to, figure out how to connect to the computer. How would I do that? Do I just have to record it and trust it's recording and go from there? It's also super heavy, so the stand can't handle it. So I think my little webcam thing and basically the setup I have now is good. It's taking me a while to figure out though. Also, let me know about your opinion of my mini intro. It's the beginning of what will be the longer intro for my channel starting in January. I'm just kind of compiling footage to put it together and figure out kind of what I want at the very end of the video. Because there's, I know what I want at the beginning, I know leading up to that, I know what I want at the very end, but there's a section that I'm like, I don't know what to put there. So I'm still trying to figure that part out. It's also set up to say that I react to live action and anime and music, and I don't want to put that out until I actually start posting those music and live action videos. I don't even know if I'll be able to. Yeah, there's still so much to do. Jeez Louise. Anyway, just want to tell you that I have super duper enjoyed My Hero Academia. The Todoroki family, the arc has been so amazing. I'm so impressed with it a lot. Not necessarily the animation. The animation is still really good. But I'm impressed with the writing. The writing's still really good. I am curious to see a little bit about what will happen in the latter half. In the last 5 episodes. I think that's when the action's really, really, really going to build. But also I've seen just from still images where the dialogue in the manga is way more than the dialogue we received in the anime. So as terms of quality and accuracy for My Hero Academia, this season has been its worst. Not quality of animation, but like quality of like writing and stuff. It's still really cool and still flows well. But the biggest complaint is they filled the season with so many flashbacks to fill space, which is just not them really. And in addition to that, the first half of the season was rife with it, and then we had a little bit more in the second half of the season, in the beginning. And I'm not, it's not expected to have flashbacks, but they're usually used sparingly. But now they're being used all the time, which is a bit much. And in addition to that, I think them cutting out large chunks of dialogue is probably not a good idea. And they've shifted some things around. So animation-wise, for My Hero Academia, this is not their best work. So I hope they learn from this season and kind of fix what they did this season and not do it again. And I'm hoping there's been some fan feedback saying, hey, no, don't ever do that again. Because this, for the quality that you guys typically give out, is bad. Maybe they're just thinking it'll flow better, or maybe they're just thinking, they don't want to catch up too soon to the manga and kind of be floundering a little bit. They're trying to pace themselves, so then maybe that's why they're also doing it a little bit, stretching out certain storylines, because they don't want to pull a original iteration of Fruits Baskets where the anime was finished before the manga was, which is why they did a new Fruits Baskets, but I'll leave that yet. Anyway, that's not much else to say. Endeavor made the decision. He's going to, because he does have a lot of money, he is going to buy a new house with no previous memories for his kids and his wife, who finally is well enough to be discharged. Oh, I hate that word. And he's choosing to live by himself at his family home, which is really, really big. I'm curious to see where Todoroki will choose to live, or Shoto, if he'll, for one really weird reason, choose to live with his dad when he's not at the school, which he's like there all the time. Or, will he choose to live at home with his siblings and stuff when they're home? And as much as I wish this wasn't happening, he kind of has a good point that there needs to be more time and more consistent of him being on the outside doing what he can for his family before he's really incorporated back. And I think that'll happen someday, but not right now, because there's still so much hatred and anger. And he is apologizing, as he is thanking. So I think when the kids do, and they will eventually, unless they really choose purposely to harden their hearts, I think they'll, all three of them, including the wife, choose to eventually forgive Endeavor. The question is, where will Endeavor be when that happens, in terms of where he'll be mentally? Will he be like, no, I know you've forgiven me, but I can't. It's better for me to be separate. But we haven't reached that part yet. I think there's a lot to happen before we even get close to that. Just saying. Anyway, if you're watching, I just love it, and I forget what was going to happen in this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, there's no sound, partial image keeps the copyright monsters at bay. But you can follow along. There's a countdown timer. You can't miss it. Let's dive in. Last episode was fire. It was so good. The boys did such a good job. Endeavor. Moments like this really do show, yeah, Endeavor is changing. It's not faking it. Whoa, only a little bit of the previous episode, which means this episode's going to have a lot of, hopefully, new good material. And considering how we're almost to the end of this season, we're only 6 episodes away, 7 if you include this one, it makes sense. The boys did such a good job. No one got killed. No one who was maybe a little bit hurt was the villain, which who cares? But they did a really good job. And apparently this is what they accomplished in a week. It's amazing. It shows how much they are thinking about what Endeavor says and how much they're pushing themselves physically. I do have to say the additional Quark edition was a surprise for Deku, but considering there were previous holders, and Toshinori or All Might had no power, he's quirkless as well. It just was, I was curious about that. So you see the boys following Endeavor there. A left transition from Amont to Endeavor. Why is it every time when I watch an anime it just gets louder in some regards? Well, the intro is loud. The third term. So there's the spring term when the school year, the summer term, and the winter term. I love the little, like, just addition of, like, Sue stopping by and then seeing her head and then moving on. Like, you didn't have to do that, but they did. What? Big one, yeah. Oh, shoot, I forgot. This is about them and President Mike seeing the bad guy. Oh, cool. Momo doesn't get it, but she does. Of course. They have no idea what's going on, but she does. Yeah, there are a lot more boys in the Class 1A than girls. I didn't really quite notice it until now. Considering how full that is versus the girls' locker room. Is he blading? Hand spun cotton candy? You know that's President Mike's car, right? Oh, he's stressed too. And he never looks stressed and upset. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. A little bit of 3D work there. They are so stressed. He's scared and stressed. Interesting. He's a type of Nomu. Oh my gosh. This was a classmate of theirs. Oh, heck. I mean, he's been experimenting on children for years. What is this here going on? These poses and these, like, Beatles things. It's so weird seeing Aizawa pre-scars. I like how they've kind of lightened their voices a little bit. Gosh, they were serious back then. That's crazy. He has an advanced Nomu. Remains. Dumb bingo, so classic. Best of the best. So he died, and he took his remains. All there is his mouse. It's a little typo there. The way he's just like this. Dude, Gran Torino shrunk like crazy. Dang. A lot of 3D work here, but again, it makes sense. These are drab, simple. Drab, simple design. And I guess I feel a bit more confident about, you know. Dang. I guess I feel more confident about making him conscious because Aizawa was there. Dude, that's messed up. So, his friend died, and maybe even it's something that was caused by All for One. And then his remains were never found, which is awful. But they were desecrated by being stolen and used for an experiment. But I'm kind of I guess maybe how much remain? Oh gosh. Or maybe the mind or the quirk of the person determines what kind of a Nomu it is, because when he was saying about the Nomus earlier was a sensible, and we thought that the one that was talking was like, oh, okay, well then, it's a more advanced Nomu. But maybe those who are more intelligent and with more unique quirks are either better design Nomus, or they are, what kind of Nomu it is really depends on what All for One decides, and what maybe the mind can handle. Maybe there's not too many quirks in there, but that's messed up, man. And that's a crazy twist there of like Kurogiri's a Nomu, and it might be your old best friend from high school. Gosh, do you know how jacked up that'd be? I have 2 best friends, and one of them disappeared or died in high school. And years later, as an adult, after mourning them, you find out that the psychopath who tried to kill you is made up of your remains of your friend. That's so twisted. That just shows, again, how jacked up and really just another thing that shows just how evil the League of Villains, All for One, what they want. Which is a great balancing, because the Liberation Army sounds nice, but when you start picking at it, and then also when you see what their actions are, you're like, no, this is jacked up. Just crazy. That's crazy. That's nice. Simple, but nice. They're trying to hold off on, telling the family the truth because it would just hurt them so much. Is he about to throw up? Caring, kind soul. It still translates to some degree. Is he about to throw up? Is that why he's like this? Dude, those are his goggles. I thought I recognized his goggles. Oh, they did find him. On paper, that is. Oh! 2 class! Dang, we never seen any of the 2 classers before. Nice little introduction. Oh no, he almost expired the whole class. And re-enroll. So he got approval to do this, kind of terrify them. My dog fell asleep and woke up. The free school spirit is a selling point for UA. Ah, interesting. Ooh, this is really getting heavy on him. He's starting to cry. He's glitching. Dang, he's crying because he's holding his eyes on for so long. His sister. No, it won't. Brainwashed, man. They were second years at the time. Yeah, there's a lot to ask for. Dang. There's something like between this genetic, And maybe All for One put something in them to make them not tell the truth or disobey. Puppets for do his will. It's gonna be hard to do, man. I know the feeling of frustration when you are trying to fight for progress. No progress is made. I'm assuming there's multiple hospitals. But perhaps the hospital that he was closest to it. Hospital. He left that phone there on purpose. Is that Tomura? That can't be it. Dude. This was dark episode. This was a crazy dark episode. Between finding out that Nomus aren't completely brainless, well, they are to a lot of degree because of what's been done to them. But they're easy. I mean, like I said, he hates humanity. He wants to tread on it and control it. Maybe that's why he's picking a number of quirkless people to do what he wants, but he's stealing quirks, like to put the quirks in there. But clearly Kirogiru was a very different thing. But again, they put a very simple directive in him: protect Shigaraki. That was his main objective. It was a simple one. As long as he always fulfilled that, there was no problem. I love their kid name, the 3 dumb bingos. But the idea is through the hospital. Maybe they're getting... Through the hospital, they are getting... their victims. So if he was truly dead, his remains would have been sent to the hospital for autopsy. So, again, I'm finally looking at Hawks. Well, it never is the other way. It's fascinating. My Villain Academia. With death on the line. Dang! It's kind of cool. I mean, like, awful, but, like, cool. Well, so that was fire. This episode was hecka heavy. With learning things about, you know, the school and the hospital, and there was like a third friend, and it's kind of funny to see that a lot of times, because of the camaraderie, that there are these big threes, and that they were in class 2A when they met, which kind of verifies that when you move on from 1 to 2, you're not going to necessarily have the same classmates you did before, which is really good, because then it really changes the dynamics. So the teams which is probably why we're kind of dragging out class the first year so long so we can kind of keep the same teens moving forward. So the idea would be then when they move forward to class, unless they were a freshman there or first years there, when they move on to class 2A and 2B, they would mix and match again. So they would create even new dynamics like before in order to, again, work with different heroes. So I think that's really cool. And I hope we get to see that soon. Is there anything else to say? I mean, I know what it's like wanting to see a friend again. I'm sure there are days when President Mike or DJ and Shigaraki just wish to see him again. Like, or he's okay at the hospital. Like, I know that feeling. I lost a friend to suicide back in 2012. So I know what that pain looks like. I get it. It's horrendous and awful. But at the same time, I would never want her remains to be desecrated and find out that they were part of an experiment to create some sort of monster. And gosh, the scene only confirms that, yeah, his remains really were used. But the hospital thing is interesting because it confirms that's one of their sources where they're finding these bodies. So they're using the remains of these people. Maybe they truly were dead or just near death enough where they had no hope of survival. And so they're taking these remains. You know, the guy was a fighter and he probably was constantly in the hospital, so he had these files on him. And the hospital would have lists of your blood type, which we're seeing here in the descriptions. You know, what your quirk is, all of that, so they know how to treat you best. So, whatever his quirk is, really intrigued All For One, and maybe he even caused that great destruction there. But I'm going to assume that when they mentioned 2A that they were in different 1 classes, switched around in 2, met each other, became great friends. So then the hope would be that our 3 boys, Shoto, Kachin, Bakugo, I prefer to say Bakugo, and Deku, would stay together because they are kind of on par to being the next big 3. Now things could really change if someone could come out of the running, but as of right now, it looks like they are kind of being set up as the next big 3. And the 3 dumb bingos probably, if they worked together and learned that, maybe if they stayed together their 3rd year, they would also have been the next big 3. So, it's interesting. And, you know, the show's always touched on dark things and terrible things, but yeah, with the overhaul arc and the death of... Oh, I'm blanking on his name. Shoot. You know what I'm talking about. It really was like, okay, now that that's kind of broken the seal, now we can leave in even to darker things. You know, desecration of graves, using remains for human experimentation, a lot of ethical and moral just sins across the board. Murder, I mean, they've committed every single sin. I mean, they have, there's no getting around it. And it's a good reminder that they're presenting this, you know, this liberation army that unfortunately these silly heroes have gotten involved with. And I think they're lower level. Like, I don't think Slide and Go really realizes that it's the League of Villains that are leading the charge. So you have these foolish heroes who maybe don't know who's really in charge and think that it's going to be a good thing for society because they're stupid and ignorant of history and other things. And because of that, they're being manipulated. I was going somewhere with that. Oh, I forget. Oh, but so as we're seeing this, and as it looks like, well, maybe it's not as bad, but like, no, League of Villains is behind this. No. this is what they do. So you're reminded of like, hey, don't be fooled. They are very, 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 very evil. And they are using whatever means they have to do what they want. Is there anything else to say? I was a little bit confused at first about the call that he received about a thug being outside of the hospital. And then I realized after he left, like, also it kind of shows that he's kind of trusts them. And maybe it's like a tracking thing. If he just throws his phone on the couch and walks out, it's a little bit of like, hey, I'm relaxed, I'm chill. If I leave my phone with you. In today's day and age where we don't want to be very far from our phone, being able to toss our phone on the couch and walk out of the room while someone else is in there kind of shows that we're like, we're chill, relaxed, we don't care. It can stay with you. It's a kind of a subtle sign of trust that he's giving them. But when they called and said there's a thug outside the hospital, it was clearly code. I didn't realize that. Code for, you know, a hospital. The hospital's a lead. So I like that. It took me a second to kind of figure out what that was. But yeah, I kind of really, really love it. Because we're also, again, reminded that he's a good-looking guy, but Hawks is a hero. And he's super smart. And he is, even though he's so young, he is kind of a great partner for the looking over that particular region of the city with Endeavor. Because they're both really intelligent and they're just very, very different how they approach things, but they work so well together. And him telling Endeavor kind of what's going on to be ready kind of shows, again, that he trusts them. Trusts him. But he has to do it in code and secret. That's why he highlighted a bunch of it. I think he highlighted the boys' books as well. I'm not sure. But he wants them to be prepared and ready for what's going on next. And it comes across as like, oh yeah, he's just spreading the word of the Liberation Army. But the way he highlights them and gives them the books is kind of his way of prepping them for what comes next. And maybe they're going to reach a point, maybe at the end of the intro, we have Endeavor looking the other way and the boys looking at Hawks and we just see his feathers. Is that the boys are going to shift a direction where Endeavor will teach them all that he can, but eventually they'll reach the point where maybe Hawks will have to take charge and the boys will have to follow Hawks into battle, more so than Endeavor. I'm really trying hard to interpret that last part of the intro. Yeah, it was the intro. But this episode was good. No flashbacks. And the flashbacks that did happen were new flashbacks. New footage. That's what we complain about. Not necessarily flashbacks, but flashbacks of old, reused footage. Used a lot. Now, if you're getting a lot of flashbacks of new footage, it's new material. But if all your flashbacks are old footage, well, now you're just saving money and you're reusing old footage and just kind of putting it in there. So, I don't mind flashbacks of new stuff. It's the flashbacks of previous episodes that's like, oh gosh. Okay. But I figured how short that intro kind of was before the actual, like, the little kind of footage was before the intro. I was like, oh, this is going to be an intense episode because that was really short. Had a lot of material, but that was insane. That was such a good episode. It's so weird seeing President Mike, like, shaken. Because he's so, like, cool and relaxed sometimes. And seeing Aizawa so angry and pushing himself so hard. And it's, you know, it was such a serious moment, but there is that little bit of humor when he goes, how are your eyes? He goes, they're unbearably dry. And it's a little kind of dark humor there. That moment of, like, which kind of helped release the tension of that scene where he goes, how are their eyes unbearably dry? And they're so serious to it, but it does help, again, release the tension. This episode was so good! Oh my gosh. You know, and of course, like I said, we only have a handful of episodes left, so we're going to get newer material. It's going to be really important. I'm not going to really waste time. But as we've been seeing the students prepare for what's next for this war that's coming, now we're going to see what the villains have been up to. And yeah, it's cool. And thank you so much for watching. I love doing these reactions. I love recording them. I just need to get better at recording, but there's so much going on, like I said, in my family right now. And I was on the phone all morning talking to different people, so I hope is that what I was able to talk to with our care manager, case manager at the hospital, kind of clarified, like, hey, this is the direction we think that we need to go. We understand that he's not ready for this, but maybe he can do this because it's kind of an in-between no physical therapy and intense physical therapy in skilled nursing facility. So we're trying to push in other ways. I haven't received a call, so I don't know. Maybe if it wasn't happening, I would have received a call. I might have to call some people and ask them what the status is. But thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your enemies, and I will see you next time.